You know, many years ago I embarked on what many may call the path down the rabbit hole. Conspiracy theory isn't a derogatory term, even if society uses it in that way. Conspiracy just means people getting together in secret and planning shit. And any good journalist would investigate and thus develop theories about that. If you look at the close ties between high rollers in finance and politics in the world, and if you add all the conspiracies that have been exposed in the past, I'd say you have to be naive not to question the official narrative, or propaganda as I was called. Conspiracy theorists merely try and uncover deeds done in secrecy, which lead to the events that we see unfolding in the world. It is much more accurate to call those who blindly follow state doctrine pushed through media coincidence theorists. Many people think conspiracy theorists are automatic nut jobs and usually accuse us of just wanting to confirm our own wacky beliefs, when the opposite is usually true. It's the challenging of our old held beliefs that took us down the rabbit hole in the first place. And I dare put out there that it's what stops a lot of people from going down the rabbit hole in the first place, because it requires the challenging of old held beliefs. There are many events that led to the challenging of these beliefs. I just picked like the two most obvious ones that are out there in the mainstream. One being government lying about Iraqi soldiers taking babies out of their incubators in Kuwait and smashing them on the floor to emotionalize the public and get innocent young men to invade Kuwait and kill other innocent young men, women and children. The other one is the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which led to the US entering the Vietnam War, which has also since been exposed as a lie. These are just two examples of outright fabricated lies spoken by those trusted politicians and propagated through the trusted news media that led to the deaths of numbers we cannot even comprehend. That's why I'm always like, just meditate over that fact alone. You know, what it even means to lose your life, and what it means to take a life, and on what a grand scale it is happening, all based off of government propaganda. It's absolute insanity. That alone should make any sane person go, stop. There are examples of governments lying, and as Eddie Bravo always says, any criminal investigator worth their salt would never trust such an entity ever again. Ever. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Or whatever the exact saying is, but it's very true. But you know, instead, understanding that these people are following their own interests, most people I speak to are usually more like, you know, I understand that governments have lied in the past, but surely they wouldn't lie about something like this. And the other thing you'll get to hear often is, do you know how many people would have to be in on this? Well, I don't. But I also don't think that many people have to be in on it, because we live in a highly compartmentalized system. All right? Like, in this system, everybody has their little field of work. In this system, we are all but a cog in the wheel. The whole picture is only ever visible to the person right on the very top of the pyramid. And don't forget that your news anchors, your favorite radio hosts, they all read off of teleprompters or of a paper. Even the goddamn president reads off a teleprompter. We just assume that the stuff they read off those teleprompters comes from trustworthy sources. Why do we assume that? You know, a true leader doesn't speak off a teleprompter. A true leader can speak from their heart, because they know what they're talking about. I'm not against the concept of leadership. It usually spontaneously emerges in situations when groups of people get together to organize something or to create something. There will be some people that are just skilled in certain areas, and they usually emerge the leaders in those areas where their skill set come in handy. And people follow those leaders because they can see they have a certain skill set that they don't have. But these leaders don't have power over anyone. No power whatsoever over anyone. And the crucial thing is they know it. Which is why a true leader would never seek out government power positions. Having said all of that, If anything, it is the belief that governments are these benevolent entities that want people happy and prosperous and protected that is out of whack. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they're not wacky conspiracy theorists, but that's a mere result of the fact that there are wacky people in all strata of life. A lot of the time it is those very people that you trust so much that are the most wacky people, because, as any psychologist will tell you, psychopaths are experts in acting, in pretending. They can make you gullible. They can make you submit to whatever it is they want. They're psychopaths. What all conspiracy theorists have in common is the mockery they're facing from the ignorant who, notwithstanding their own complete lack of research, feel so confident in their ignorance that they think it's actually a dismissal in itself to call someone a conspiracy theorist or tinfoil hat wearer or whatever other of the countless derogatory terms you want to choose, which are nothing but ad hominem attacks in order to discredit the individual without saying anything about the quality of the argument that individual presented. The list of government lies, propaganda, and manipulation of the masses through media are so abundant that if you ever just spend a few moments informing yourself about our leaders, as we established they are not leaders, about our rulers' phoniness, you wouldn't trust a word coming out of their mouth. Rulers, i.e. governments, and media have been in bed for a long time, and there are books about this unholy matrimony, laying out exactly where and how the agendas of governments are shaped outside the public forum, at gatherings the general public are not privy to. These gatherings also involve high rollers in media, who then feed the public exactly what their rulers want them to hear. Whistleblowers have written about this extensively. And I don't want to digress too much because there's no way to lay out a decade and more of research in one YouTube video. But I'm very happy to send anybody interested in these topics links to books, websites, and videos that I found quite eye-opening. I just wanted to inspire some to maybe also invest some research and understand all the people out there who may be in the vast minority, but who know that this whole virus story is an event created and planned in order to make us afraid, docile, and agree to the next wave of freedoms that will be taken away on the back of this. It's already happening. The right to assemble freely, which goes hand in hand with the right to speak freely, is being eroded. Deep down you know that these measures are, if not outright hysterical, then at least completely exaggerated. We just automatically assume that anything government says is God's truth, literally. Governments have become the gods of the godless. The genius of government is that it always sells you an eradication of human freedoms or human rights on the back of fear, always. Again, examples of this are abundant. And this virus is merely the next big fear. No one would be surprised if an order came through at any point now forbidding people to leave their houses, which would then automatically make everybody that do leave their houses a criminal. And the really sad thing about this is that most people would probably support that person's kidnapping. I mean, they would call it an arrest, but it is a kidnapping because they are shit scared of an invisible virus, but not of a system that employs armed robots doing this kidnapping. Just real quick, another thing that conspiracy theorists have been knowing for a while now is that Hollywood and the mass media, they engage in predictive programming. Why do you think it's called a TV program? We've seen the exact scenes that are currently unfolding in horror movies and thrillers, in Netflix shows and whatnot. We've seen these scenes a million times. The programming has done its job insofar as we accept the current news stories much more easily. People are almost like, oh my God, it's really happening, it's really happening. When the reality is no, it's not really happening. Just as it wasn't really happening in your Hollywood movies. I swear, man, it's like 90% on the TV is fiction. I'm saying this to take away the fear. They're liars. At the very top, where these agendas are set, they are megalomaniacal, psychopathic liars. And yes, there is a very top, and yes, there is such a thing as they. And they can be researched as well, at least up to a certain degree. Pun intended. Anyways, please resist this fear-mongering bullshit. The suppressed and hidden knowledge doesn't just include knowledge of the people that run this world and the ways they have made us all subject to an inhuman and arbitrary man-made law, which doesn't really qualify as law. You can check out some of the early episodes on my channel for this. They make us subject to the system by creating the person. And if you look this up, person literally means mask or false face, such as was worn by actors in Roman theater. And we wear this mask, which we call our ID, our identity, for all our lives. And that's how the state addresses us. The abstract entity of a state can only deal with abstract entities. Human beings can only deal with human beings. Have you noticed how many of the state official documents that you get sent recently aren't even signed anymore? Because they know no human being would stand for this shit. So anyway, the person is created at your birth, and it's a whole nother topic I'm gonna get into at some point in a future video. But that's not all, that the suppressed and hidden knowledge contains. It's like there's secrets of nature, like magnetism, fascinating, incredible stuff. And the hidden knowledge also includes knowledge about health and the human mind, both of which are constantly under attack. I mean, doesn't it at least seem plausible to you that if there are proven effects of placebos improving people's health just by setting off thought patterns in their brains that are beneficial to their healing, it is very, very obvious that that also works the opposite way. I know it's probably much to ask everyone to do this kind of research, but at least get mad at the people that want to control your mind, that manipulate your mind. I mean, honestly, on what basis are you still trusting these people's words? On what basis are you still trusting the words that come out of the radio? On what basis? You're being kept in a state of fear. And what happens in this state of fear, it causes us to operate with limited consciousness. Fear contracts consciousness. We only operate on our very base brain, on the one that's controlling our base instincts. And there's a very good reasons for having that part of the brain, of course. But the fear causes that we only operate on the lower part, because we shut out the functions of our brain that deal with emotions, and empathy and these kind of things. We act like we are in survival mode. And that's why you have so many people saying these days that human beings are like animals or nothing more than animals, because a lot of them act like animals. That doesn't mean, however, that human beings aren't capable of much more. Human beings can activate their higher brain functions and literally ascend. And you know what expands consciousness? The opposite of fear, which is love.